You know, when it comes to our children's health, there are so many disorders and diseases to keep on the radar. One of them, Down syndrome. Studies show more than 400,000 people are living with Down syndrome in the United States.
And you also watch to see if your child is one of 88 who will be diagnosed with autism by age 8, or the 1 in 5 who will be diagnosed with a mental illness. And with all of these concerns, we as parents try to keep on top of what's changing in the health industry.
For instance, did you know a recent report calls for mental illness screening for school-age children? And in a new report released just this weekend, Asperger's syndrome will be dropped from the diagnostic guide used by the nation's psychiatrists. Asperger's will now be lumped together under autism spectrum disorders.
And as some of you might know firsthand, many children who live with these diseases and disorders find it difficult to make friends and make their way in life. But now a music legend is helping these kids find their voice and find out just how special they really are.
What's up, girls?
Bernadette Bascom is all love.
I haven't seen you forever.
Oh no, goodbye.
She loves these kids.
Me too.
And she loves her music.
As long as you need me.
The R&B legend has shared the stage with Elton John and Stevie Wonder.
It's turned me into this woman that really respects the power of music.
And now Bernadette is combining both her passions to form the music project.
Big breath.
You've got a friend.
She calls them differently abled.
Open your jaws, short words, and breathe.
Use your core if you want to sing something.
I've learned to open my voice more.
And teaches them how to sing.
They'd never held a microphone before. They never had people applaud them for anything, really. That's big.
Her confidence has spiraled way up.
And she teaches them how to love themselves. She's taken her show on the road.
I want you to give them everything you always thought you could. The purpose of your life is to reach out and help others. It just is.
Helping troubled teens find their way through song.
You need me. I love you guys.
A lesson we all need to take to heart.
They sure do. Bernadette now hopes to take the music show to the national level, helping teenagers across the country.
Now, when we're talking about these kids, many times their diseases and disorders are diagnosed at an early age with different tests and screenings. Not always the case when it comes to mental illness like depression.
In fact, leading mental health experts are calling for mental illness screenings for children. Dr. Kathy Seifert is an expert in family trauma and youth violence with Eastern Shore Psychological Services, and she joins us this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. What they're basically asking or recommending is that all children, be screened for a possible mental illness.
And I disagree with that to this extent. Only about 20% of children actually have some problems, some mental health problems. And so why screen the other 80% when it's highly unlikely that they have a mental health problem? And part of the definition of having a mental health problem is that children have trouble functioning in the classroom, in the community, at home. These children, you can see that they're having some difficulty and either need support, help, therapy. They need something, they need an adult to help them. And so those children are the ones that you target for screening to see what it is they really do need.
Okay, so the 20% that you're talking about, are there specific triggers or signs that we should look for?
Sure. If you have a child who's sitting alone in a classroom and doesn't have any friends, that's a problem. Children should be interacting with other kids. And so that would be something that you would look for.
Mm-hmm.
If a child is looking depressed or very afraid or has difficulty taking tests because they're so anxious. If they're having behavior problems, they're acting out. That's a problem. And so those are the children that you would look for in terms of screening those children.
Now, it seems mental illness is a broad definition. What is mental illness in a clinical sense?
In a clinical sense, mental illness means that, number one, you're having difficulty functioning in the world because your reaction to the outside world is not the best it can be. So in other words, if I'm in a situation and instead of facing the situation, I become depressed or anxious or fearful or withdrawn, I will have difficulty facing that situation. So a mental illness has to do with mood. It has to do with being able to face problems and to be able to deal with them effectively.
Do you think mental illness problems are common in kids?
I think they're common to the extent that about 20% of children and adults have those problems. They can be mild, moderate, or severe. Some of them resolve themselves all by themselves, and others need to have an intervention, therapist, a doctor of some kind.
And I think a lot of people jump to assume that if you have a mental illness, you need to take medications. That's not the case.
Not the case at all. Again, if you're looking at mild, moderate, and severe, if you have someone who has a severe mental illness, that child probably will need medication and therapy. You would combine the two. Someone with a moderate level of mental illness may or may not need a medication. So you need that level of evaluation to determine what is needed. Someone with a mild difficulty may only need support or education of the parents so they know how to help their child.
In that line, can we be proactive? Is there something we can do to help prevent mental illness in our kids?
I think what we can do is two things. I think we can educate people in terms of what to look for, but I think we can also educate people in terms of what causes difficulties with children, and one of the things is trauma in children can lead to mental health problems. And so if we help prevent trauma in children or give children therapy when they do have a traumatic event, we can prevent a lot of mental illness in the world.
Now, what do you say to parents who, I mean, our generation, there's a stigma attached to mental illness. That should not be the case. What do you tell parents?
I tell parents that having a mental health problem is the same as having a broken leg or the chicken pox. And it is something that's within the body and is very fixable. You take medicine for the chicken pox. You can sometimes take medicine for a mental illness. It's the same thing. Take your baby to the doctor. If you want to do a well baby check, take your child to the doctor if you want to know if they're functioning well and doing well mentally.
But the first step is your primary physician. That's the first step.
Primary care physician is your first step.
All right.
Always.
Good
Dr.
information.
Kathy Seifert, thank you so much for coming in. It's
Thank
wonderful
you.
having you here today.
Thank you.
Well,
Still to come on Delmarva Life, we're going to tell you some more about the Doghouse Project. Simple little concept that could save a dog's life and how you can help.
and later, many of us have family secret recipes, including me, but my mom's letting me fill you in on it today. From my family to yours, a Christmas cookie recipe everyone's sure to love.
But first, we have so much fun during the show, we really would like to have you in here with us. There's always room for you in our studio audience. We save a chair for you. Come see us. Bring your friends, your family, your church, youth group, your neighbors, co-workers, you name it. Bring them. We'd love to see you. All you have to do is go to delmarvalife.com and click on the show tab. There's a section called For the Audience. Now, if you'd rather, give us a call, 443-880-9116, and we want to see you.